New York Times
election night. It's this cultural moment for the country. People invite their friends over, the families gather around the television on the edge of our seats to see who's going to win.
We're about to get the first results.
We are about to make a major call.
People expect results by the 11 o'clock news. That's just the reality, and we want to meet that reality.
Yeah, that's just not going to happen.
The Red Mirage.
This year, Michigan, a state with one of the slimmest margins in 2016, is one of 27 states that has made a major expansion to vote by mail.
Never in our lifetimes has the way people elect their president changed so much in a single year. And it is going to have more fights, more disputes.
There are several.
Oh, I want to watch the 60 Minutes. Fuck, I was just thinking. I'm going to watch the 60 Minutes epi on whatchamacallit. I'm going to watch the 60 Minutes episode on the fucking Lincoln Project.
Several states that only have mail-in voting, including a Republican.
Well, this is playing with fire.
More media mayhem than anything we've seen.
And we may be hearing this word a lot.
Fraud.
These veteran election workers are seriously worried about election night.
Here we go.
We got some critical calls.
Yes, we do.
Becoming election week, or even election month.
I don't know any industry that requires you to.
That's another realistic possibility that, like, election week could potentially turn into election month. Something that we fail to consider. The when there are actual recounts. There are actually going to be recounts around, all around the country. Now, this is all predicated on, this means instead of election night coverage, you'll do election month coverage. I'm going to die if this cycle continues for longer than I wanted to. Okay? And then there's also the lame duck session where we have to watch every fucking step that Donald Trump takes as he dismantles the rest of the institutions that he didn't fucking already destroy. So there's also that. The moment of safety is inauguration, okay? Donald Trump loses, hopefully, inshallah. Inauguration. That's when I get to sleep for a fucking whole week. Are you ready to do IRL stream from the new Brooks Bros protest of the recounts? Yeah. Oh, baby, if Texas turns out big, ain't going to be no election month. Come on, inshallah. You're bugging on a stack. No shot bucko if you unironically believe that Texas is going to fucking turn out and turn blue with the severe voter suppression tactics that Texas is engaging in right now. You can use that as a testament to how fearful people are that Texas will turn blue. But you can't use that as an example of why Texas will turn blue. The voter suppression in Texas is severe, dude. It's not happening.
Stay up 48 hours straight.
No.
Oh, jeez.
And it has huge implications on whether Americans accept the results.
To get a look at how vote by mail will change the election, we go to Michigan, where we lift the hood on election day.
So we're in Detroit, which is right about here.
So Michigan is an amazing place to live.
A microcosm of the entire country.
Hardworking, get it done ethos.
Manufacturing.
Including the auto industry.
The auto industry.
This is the 1972 Oldsmobile Cutlass.
And when it comes to its elections,
cool.
Michigan has
The most decentralized system.
Take it from the Secretary of State.
1,500 local clerks in 83 counties, all of whom are for the most part independently elected.
And Michigan can't declare a winner until the results come in from every clerk. Like this guy. Lansing clerk.
That's a libtard right there. He's on libtard New York Times. More likely that Biden takes Texas than Trump wins PA.
Chris Swope.
Michigan has never really hit.
I don't know about
We've got
both
the
of
COVID
those
crisis. In addition,
I know you're basing that off of polling, and I have literally nothing but a hunch. But the only thing I have is a motherfucking hunch, dude.
Michigan passed Proposal 3 of 2018, which gave a lot of additional voter rights, and one of those was the right to vote by absentee ballot for any reason. So those two things have led to a lot of people voting by absentee ballot more than ever before.
That leaves clerks in a tight spot. They're getting more mail-in ballots than ever, but they don't have the tools or time to process them. Let's review.
Shifting gears to voting by mail.
To process the wave of absentee ballots, Michigan needs more equipment, like high-speed ballot scanners,
You are
automatic
bad at
letter
polling and your
openers,
hunters are
even
trash.
PPE.
Okay, so I'm no different than virtually every other pundit on the planet. Got it. The only difference between me and every other pundit is that I admit that I have no fucking clue what's going to happen. Whereas most other pundits will try to sell you that they know what the fuck is happening when they don't.
For the poll workers. The federal government pitched in $11 million, but it's not enough. And even with the right equipment, it'll take a long time to process all those envelopes. But unlike many other states, under Michigan law, poll workers must wait until 7 a.m. on Election Day to begin opening ballots. Which is around the time we head to Lansing to meet up with Chris Swope.
How are we doing today?
It's an early start to a long primary day. A dry run for November.
Are we excited? How many of you have done this before?
This is Swope's Army. Poll workers aged 17 to 84.
I think everybody should have a chance to work a precinct.
Who have braved an international pandemic to preserve
Lady, if you're 84, you probably shouldn't be around other people, okay?
American democracy. And to
it's
handle
brave
paper.
of them and all, but like, what
Lots
the fuck are you
and
doing?
lots of paper.
I figure we'll be here at least until 10.
I'm guessing 11.
Whoa. But she's going midnight, and she's one of my best friends.
Until you really see it in action or try to do it yourself, I don't think it really hits you about how much time this actually takes.
Over in Detroit, the largest jurisdiction in Michigan, poll workers were bogged down on primary day without some very basic equipment.
We attempted to purchase electronic letter openers, but they were on back order. Approximately 70,000 ballots were returned.
Which means
approximately 70,000 will be opened by hand.
That'll slow things down. Over in Clinton Township, part of the largest county Trump flipped in 2016, Clerk Kim Meltzer says starting the count at 7 a.m. on Election Day leads to totally preventable mistakes.
Most important is the integrity of the election process and the accuracy of the vote. If they're up for 48 hours straight, could mistakes be made?
Yes, and when they are, it's Meltzer's job to
find out what happened.
Which means even more time spent sorting out one issue after another.
Scott, can you give that to Scott? Solve that problem. All right. If it came between having more money or more time, I would rather have more time.
Both Meltzer, a Republican, and Swope, a Democrat, support bills to change election laws to allow ballots to be opened before Election Day and for poll workers to work in shifts, including a bill introduced by a Republican senator and former Secretary of State, Ruth Johnson.
That needs to be done to help those workers. So I'm hoping both those bills go through.
Hers did, 6 weeks before the presidential election. It gives an extra day to clerks in the largest jurisdictions to open envelopes, but adds additional requirements that could slow the process. Pop quiz.
Do you know when the United States' first widespread use of absentee balloting was?
No. 1928 or something?
I think it was in the mid-90s.
Well, we were going for 1864, and it was just as hotly debated as it is today. Take it away, Charles Sable.
Tell me when.
All right, go for it.
We're here at the Henry Ford birthplace. And when Henry Ford was born here in 1863, Abraham Lincoln was starting to think about the 1864 election. He wanted to make sure that the soldiers in the field of battle were allowed to vote. Lincoln wanted everyone who could vote to vote.
And even then,
it was a partisan battle, except what happened then was the reverse of what's happening today. The Republicans, the party of Abraham Lincoln, wanted absentee balloting. The Democrats were very much against absentee voting because they felt it was not in their favor politically.
Democrats used to be against absentee voting, libtards. They're the real racists, and they still are. Even though we now defend the Confederacy and say heritage not hate and also don't want absentee ballots because it'll hurt our chances electorally, but don't pay attention to that. What are you, crazy? Don't pay no mind to that, please.
And they use the same arguments that Republicans are using today, that it could allow for tampering, coercion, all sorts of manipulation. So it was the opposite of today. Fascinating.
Okay, back to the modern day.
As these states are trying to make voting easier, again, based on early CDC guidance, in many cases, their own legislatures are fighting this because of fraud.
Like in Michigan, where the fight is playing out between the current and former secretaries of state.
Absentee isn't good or bad. It's more convenient, but you must have in those checks and balances to safeguard the integrity.
In response to the pandemic, Secretary Jocelyn Benson mailed out 7.7 million absentee ballot applications.
This was a mailing of applications, giving people the tools to request to vote by mail.
But for Senator Johnson, the unsolicited mailing opened the door for
operatives on both sides that will cheat. Here's a stack over here, about 500 absentee ballot requests that went to non-qualified people. Here's one, the people moved 11 years ago, 22 years.
There you go. She's admitting to it. We can't have it, folks. We just can't have it.
Ago, this person died. That's a problem for me.
But Secretary Benson says
She's
that's
right.
the point.
She's right. 12 people. 500 votes. That we know about.
Mailing actually
enabled us to better clean up our voter rolls by identifying people.
500 out of 7.7 million. Hey, guess what? That's the ones we know about.
People who may have moved or have passed away. A secondary benefit has been it's enabled us to reduce the potential for fraud,
which studies have shown
It happens exceptionally rarely. It is so rare. It's kind of like a narwhal. They exist, but you see them so rarely that they take on a sort of mythical status. I mean, this is a real corrosive false narrative.
It's too damn high.
In the voting system, especially the vote-by-mail system.
To see why fraud is so rare, let's look at what actually happens to that ballot once you drop it off or mail it in. It starts when you receive your ballot in a sealed envelope, which has another secrecy envelope inside. You fill out your ballot, then slide it into the secrecy envelope and send it back.
Even the fact that the New York Times is educating people on how to do this is fake news and therefore bad for the future of our democracy. They're teaching people how to vote. If people know how to fill this shit out, then they're going to end up voting. And that's cheating. We want to make sure this process is as complicated as possible.
Either by mail or at a special drop box. At your local polling station, the envelopes are sorted and opened. One poll worker, who can see your name but not how you voted, takes the ballot out of the envelope and tears off the identification tab.
But what if they did see who you were voting for and then threw it in the trash? Yeah. Nobody talks about that. Just kidding. Trump talks about that all the time. And again, first of all, there are both Republicans and Democrats in charge of this process, as you already saw. And secondly, there have been situations where something like this has happened or ballot harvesting has happened, which would be considered election fraud, usually run by officials of one party. A lot of times it's Republicans, but that's besides the point. So when that does happen, they look at the results. They will look at the results, the exit polls versus the actual results ultimately. And if there's a gigantic disparity, then you can ask for you can apply to get a recount.
while another who can see how you voted but not your name opens the ballots. And finally, your ballot is scanned and your vote is counted. After repeating this dance almost 18,000 times, it's past midnight for the poll workers in Lansing.
Michigan election law requires them to be sequestered. They have to work until the job is done.
So after 18 hours, the workers can leave and go home.
My name's Barb Byram. I'm the Ingham County Clerk.
And she's been awake for
well over 24, probably close to 30, 35 hours.
I'm also going to talk about what's happening in California with ballot boxes. Apparently, the Republican Party, because this, I think, segues nicely into that story. California is currently investigating unauthorized ballot boxes that were installed by Republicans in an effort to, in their endless endeavor to make it seem like there's so much widespread voter fraud happening. Some California Republicans took matters into their own hands and actually did electoral fraud, or election fraud rather, in an effort to actually create a problem within the electoral process. So very cool, very interesting. That's something that we're going to get to in a brief moment, which is, you know, doing election fraud to own the libs is exactly what you would expect from these psychos.
Hours so far?
35 hours straight.
Oh, yeah, it's
How
a
does she
felony.
do it?
I'm very, very thankful for coffee.
And
just a little more dry shampoo. On election night, all of that information comes back to me at the county level to post for public viewing the unofficial election night results. So when people are watching the news, they're getting their information from the press, who get it from me.
Except one of the county's townships has had a computer error. So no results. And Barb's still up.
And so I'm running on adrenaline and coffee.
It's a scene many election officials fear will be even worse in November, when 2 to 3 times as many ballots are expected.
So worst case scenario, if the legislature fails to act, if the feds fail to give us the resources that we need, we are going to have significant delays in results.
Make some major projections.
And a delay in reporting results in a swing state on election day could have serious consequences for democracy.
Now, I'm confident a delay in result does not mean anything is going wrong in the administration of elections. However,
when you don't really understand that process, that's where that kind of uncertainty can be filled in with misinformation or conspiracy theories. It's so easy for false information to spread, and that could undermine, ultimately, confidence in the process, not only in Michigan, but all over the country.
And it doesn't help when the false information is being spread by the president.
They want to try and steal this election.
Trump has issued literally dozens of tweets. He's posted on Facebook, and he's given countless interviews based on nothing to say that vote by mail will delegitimize the entire election.
And there's one more factor that could delay results even further and undermine confidence even more: lawsuits. Current Michigan law requires ballots to not just be postmarked by Election Day, but to actually arrive by 8 p.m. to be counted.
At the same time, a new
This is going to be a huge problem, and that's why they were also using Postmaster General DeJoy to tamper with this process, especially because some people are going to go and cast their vote in the mail the day of. And if you do that, very difficult that you're DeJoy in the jail. You guys are so fucking stupid, you know that? Dismantling mail sorters and selling them for scrap metal. There was another way to do that as well. Dude, why do you keep saying Trump rally is live? Like, is he even fucking... Dude, Brother Rick, is he even on stage right now? If he's not on stage, I'm going to ban you. Okay? You posted it so many fucking times.
We're going to follow you right back to mommy. You get your milk.
Like, you're like, you have to see this dude. He's fucking live right now, dude. Please. Please, dude. You have to. You can't miss a fucking second, dude. It's at 4 p.m. Better than what you're watching now, lol? Wait. Oh, fuck. You just keep getting clapped.
This is a deranged pervert.
By Fossabot. Here, take a week off, bitch.
Postmaster General, very loyal to Donald Trump, is bringing in new policies that are slowing down the mail.
Fearing these delays could potentially disenfranchise voters, groups have sued to give more time for ballots to arrive.
When you look at the reasons why ballots sent through the mail may be otherwise valid but unable to be counted, the top reason is the ballot was postmarked prior to Election Day but received in the days that followed.
Like this stack of ballots in Detroit. They arrived on primary day, but after 8 p.m.
This one came in about 11:30.
So, under the law, none counted.
So that could make a difference. Sure could. So yes, that's pretty concerning.
Remember, in 2016, President Trump won Michigan.
That guy sounds like me on the VR, dude.
By fewer than 11,000 votes. In this primary alone, more than 10,000 ballots were rejected, the majority for arriving past 8 p.m. This is just one of many issues likely to be litigated before and after Election Day in a number of different states.
The states that are full mail states, like Washington State, it took 10 years to develop its system. Now, every state in the country is being asked to get close to an all-mail election in a few months. It's daunting.
As a result, the limits of state constitutions are being tested.
It's the classic building the plane while you're flying it, and parts are going to fall off.
Facing lawsuits, many officials in battleground states are bracing for impact. Pennsylvania and Ohio over their drop boxes, Wisconsin on their postmarks, and many more.
I think a lot of lawsuits, some are often filed on valid legal grounds. Some are also filed as part of a political strategy to sow seeds of doubt in the electorate about the integrity of the process.
When does a ballot...
Virtually everything that Republicans have ever said in the history of Republicans, or at least the contemporary Republican Party, is absolutely virtue signaling. It's fucking bullshit. It's projection. It is, without a single doubt, every single thing that they've said about mail-in ballots is to undermine the integrity of our electoral process and to inevitably justify all the legal actions that they are going to take in an effort to try to steal the election from the Democrats. That's precisely what this is. Anyone who tries to tell you like Republicans genuinely are concerned about election security are fucking out of their minds. It is not hyperbole. It's not hyperbole. I'm sorry. I am sick and fucking tired of people who like try to make it seem like politicians are honest or genuine. I don't even have any sort of problem with like you saying the same about the Democrats. No. It's like this. Okay? Do Democrats legitimately care about like black people being able to vote? Out of a moral position that they have? Some certainly do, but is the actual fucking reason why they care because black people vote overwhelmingly for Democrats? Absolutely. Okay? That's the reality. That is 100% the reality. The truth. So when Republicans say stuff like, oh my God, we care about election security, do they actually care? Some of them probably are stupid and legitimately believe that like, there's a way to like someone is actually trying to undermine our sovereignty or our election processes. But the reality is there is one fucking party that has been stopping any sort of even bipartisan electoral integrity and election security measures. And that person is Mitch McConnell, and it's the Republican Party. Okay? Actual Republicans might believe that the elections are compromised because they get brainwashed by Fox News. But professional Republicans, whenever they say election security, they 1,000,000 fucking %, and you will never be able to convince me otherwise. They 1,000,000 % are saying it because they want to stop black people from voting, they want to stop brown people from voting, they want to stop poor people from voting, and that is the reason why they say this, and that is the reason why they implement measures to stop as many people from voting as possible. Okay? There is no other reason, for example, for for the Republican legislature and the Republican majority Supreme Court of the state of Florida to institute a poll tax in the state of Florida for felons who recently had their voter rights restored by a bipartisan consensus in the Democratic ballot. Okay, with a
God, those communists are amazing.
Jesus Christ. With a proposition to have their with a proposition to have felons have their voting rights restored, a measure was implemented by Ron DeSantis, backed by Ron DeSantis, to stop a lot of those people from voting. Half of them, literally half of like 1.7 million people, from stopping them from voting altogether, unless they paid off their debts, their court debts, and all these other debts that they might have or might have accrued. And the only reason for why they did that is because they didn't want poor people and also overwhelmingly black and brown people to vote, because poor people and overwhelmingly black and brown people vote Democrat or tend to vote for Democrats. That's why they stopped it. You don't even know what you're saying? Going senile like Biden? Yes. Everyone's vote should be counted, full stop. Only a Sith deals in absolutes. There's a week off for you too.
Come in. How is it postmarked? Does the postmark have a date? If the postmark doesn't have a date, how do you count that vote? Suddenly, all of these teeny little issues involving how mail flows through this country become issues for the bedrock of democracy.
Hasan.
This is Alex.
Okay, I'll run the ad break right now. And then after that, we are going to